Hi, this is Michael Cohen. Today's topic is mistakes that people make on Medicaid applications. The reason why people apply for long-term care Medicaid is so the government will help pay for their long-term care cost. Often the cost of care is greater than $7,000 a month. Most people don't have the income or assets to pay for that, and Medicare doesn't pay, so they try to shift the burden of cost of care to the government. But often there's mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes is if you have a home, it generally doesn't count as a resource, although the state has a right to make a claim against the home after death, although there are exceptions. But you have to say on the application, if you are single, that there is an intent to return home. A lot of people think, oh, well, that person will never come home, and therefore they don't sign any form that says there's an intent to return home. If you fail to do that, then there's ineligibility. So then you might have to private pay that over $7,000 a month by just failing to check off a box or fill out a form that says there's no intent to return home. There is an intent to return home, excuse me. So you have to say that there's an intent to return home for the home to not count as an asset. Another thing is that some people think that they should put their home in an irrevocable living trust. Revocable living trust is a trust that you control. It's a very common estate planning tool. But under the Medicaid rules, if you put the home in your revocable living trust, it counts as a resource. So a lot of times people do different things like a ladybird deed into a revocable trust as opposed to it counting as a resource. Another thing that people fail to do, or they often think that you can make a gift to an annual exclusion gift. They've been told by accountants you could always give away $16,000 a year per person without reporting to the IRS. But the tax laws are different than the Medicaid laws. Medicaid laws are based on what your assets are. It's means tested. So they think if you make a gift, you did it on purpose if it's within 5 years to get eligible for Medicaid. So if you make a gift of $16,000 or more, or whatever gifts you made, then it could be a transfer penalty. So be careful on that. That could be undone, by the way, and there are some exceptions to the rules, but that'll be beyond the time of this little bit of recording. Another thing that's a common mistake is that people fail to look at the gross income as opposed to looking at the net income. A lot of people don't know the difference between gross and net. So out of your Social Security check, it's often a Medicare Part B or D is taken out for your doctors or for drugs, and then you just get the net amount electronically deposited into your checking account. Well, the state looks at the gross, not the net. So sometimes, even though the net is below the $2,523 monthly income cap, the gross might be greater, which could have created ineligibility unless you do what's called a qualified income trust. Another problem that sometimes people have or fail to consider is the cash surrender value of life insurance policies. If you have a life insurance policy that has a face value of $1,500 or more, they count the cash surrender value. In other words, whatever you could get to, well, you could use that money to help pay for care. So you'll have to look at the face value of the policy and consider what the cash surrender value is towards that $2,000 limit if you are single. If you're married, there's often a lot more that you can keep, but that's beyond the scope of this tape as well. Another thing is you should try to reconcile the resources to see exactly where you are on the first day of each month at 12:01 a.m. If you're single or if you're married, they look at that resource limit. If you're single, you always have to be below $2,000 on the first day of the month. And if you're married, you can't be above the amount that you had at what they call the snapshot date. Also, if you have any closed accounts in the last 5 years, you need to report those because they want to see if there's any transfers and so show where the money went. So those are just a few of the different types of mistakes that people often make. I hope you don't make those by learning from today. I thank you for joining us and hope to see you next time.